Hi, friends. Welcome back to the Multifamily Review. As always, I am your host, Marcus Armstrong. Today, we are sitting down with a very special guest. He is, in fact, the most charming, the most incredible, the smartest, and possibly the most attractive member of the J. Turner research team. Well, I tell you what, if I didn't know any better, I'd say I'm interviewing myself.
Yeah, you are.
Perfect. I love that. Well, I tell you what, we're going to sit down today with me to talk about the mechanics of online review sites and internet listing services, 12th edition. I get it, it's a mouthful, but I promise the insights are worth listening to. Let's break into it. Marcus, I tell you what, it's great having you on the podcast. I've been following your work, and you're just absolutely fantastic. Hey, Marcus, thank you so much for having me today. I'm glad to be here. In fact, the other day I was in the elevator, and someone stopped me, and they're like, "Hey, are you Marcus?" And I had to be like, No, I'm just Marcus. I think, though, we should start pretty general. The report highlights that online reviews are continuing to explode in the multifamily industry. What's going on here? Hey, that's a great question. I want to break this down just a little bit here. I think the explosion in reviews is happening because it's just a different way to offset yourself from your competition, right? Let's think about this pretty generally speaking. If someone has decided to come tour your community, you can be sure that they're touring all the communities that also check those same boxes, right? If you're trying to use like your amazing pool or your fantastic gym as these amenities to try to help capture this particular prospective resident, I think you're missing the point, because yes, you have those things, but the same property that this person's also looking at have those things. One of the ways that we can separate ourselves is through the use of online reviews, and I think that's what's caused this massive explosion, right? It's just another way for us to market our communities as being a fantastic place to call home. So I guess what you're trying to say is that this is just a different way to separate yourself out. And kind of moving from that, I want to ask you, the report also indicates a shift in where reviews are happening. We're getting less and less on paid ILSs, and we're seeing more of these free review sites popping up here. What's going on there? I think we're seeing a pretty dramatic shift in where the reviews are going, right? Obviously, Google is dominant, but you're seeing this issue where less and less the ILSs are playing a role. Without getting too much into it, I think budgets are a big reason for that, right? We're currently dealing with this crazy economic period where interest rates are really high. Everyone's kind of looking to cut back costs and operations, and you have to start asking yourself, is it really making that big of a difference to have my reviews on this ILS where I'm having to pay to manage the posting and things like that? And in some cases, I might say, yes, it's definitely a benefit to you. But, if you can meet the same requirements and show your prospective renters that, you have great ratings, even on the sites that, you don't have to pay to manage the listing, I think that's really important. Fantastic information. Loving every bit of that. I tell you what, the average review count per property is nearing 140. Is there a point of diminishing returns with these reviews, or is more always better? Is there a point where reviews hit a diminishing return? Absolutely, right? I think we get caught up in this idea where more is better always, and that's just not the case. I would say it's definitely a quality over quantity type of thing. So as we are hitting this point of 140 reviews per property, that's really cool to think about. But that also means that if you're not paying attention to your online reputation from the start, you're digging yourself a hole, right? If you start piling on a bunch of 1 stars because you're not focused on generating 5-star reviews, it's becoming a more massive hole to try to dig yourself out of. Google is clearly an 800-pound gorilla, okay? When it comes to the online reviews, what specific strategies are you seeing property managers employing that are improving their Google ratings? 800-pound gorilla, I might say 12,000-pound gorilla. I mean, Google is obviously king. I don't think there's any denying that. And when I'm thinking about specific strategies on how someone might go about, increasing their Google rating, I think it all comes down to what we like to call moments of gratitude, right? If Mr. Johnson comes into your office and sits down with a problem and you help solve that problem, and he's very thankful for the solution. Let's say he had an issue with his billing and you sat down and you're like, well, there's actually a water charge right here. And he's like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. It's fantastic. Thank you for doing that. That's a moment of gratitude, right? That's a place where you could reach out and say, hey, I would really appreciate it if you left me an online review. And I think that makes a lot of sense. If you do it while that person's in front of you, you're much more likely to get that yes and get that online review, right? While he's sitting at your desk, you're front and center in his mind. When he leaves the office, right, with his resolution, you're no longer front of mind. He's got his wife, he's got his kids, he's got his job, he's got every other thing that can happen in life that's in front of him, kind of taking away from what you asked him to do. So I think if you're looking for the best way to increase your Google rating, it's as simple as just asking. And I think what's really important is knowing when to ask. Talking a little bit more about those Google ratings, we're looking at the percentiles that are given in the report. Why are these percentiles so important for property managers to understand? And what can they do to have more favorable percentiles? The Google rating percentiles. These are important because this is what helps separate you from the rest of the pack, right? I think in the report you saw that we're aiming for this 4.5 range. Well, that's really important because that's when the elite 1% starts, right? That's where most elite 1% properties are sitting with their Google ratings. And if we're trying to be the best of the best, then that's obviously where we should start at. All right. So you're giving us a lot of great information, but I got to ask, what are some of the biggest mistakes you're seeing that these multifamily companies are making when it comes to their online reputation? Yeah, I think we're pretty highly tuned in as an industry to the online reputation world. I don't think that there's anything that I would say is a major mistake. But one of the biggest mistakes I guess I could bring up is people are chasing quantity instead of quality, where, we kind of talked about this earlier. If you're just focused on trying to get reviews, then maybe you're not going about it the best way of getting the best quality 5-star feedback. And I think this is really important because if you think about the math here, for every 1-star review you get, if you were trying to get that 4.5-star average, then you need 7 5-star reviews to offset that singular 1-star review, right? 7 to 1. That's the magic ratio. And I think we as an industry sometimes don't think about that. If you are someone who's trying to build up your online reputation, you think, oh, I just got a bunch of 5-star reviews. Yes, that's good, but only if you can guarantee they're all 5-star reviews. I would say it's more of let's get down to the very base level of the pyramid and say, what is actually affecting the resident satisfaction piece? And what can we do to increase that to get the type of review quality that we're looking for? Can you speak to the importance of responding to both positive and negative reviews? We had Jay Bear at one of our research summits, actually this past research summit, and he wrote a book called Hug Your Haters, which says that you should, in fact, interact with everyone who leaves you a review, even the people who leave you the negative reviews. One, it just shows that you care. I think most prospects can probably pick out that, a particular resident might have an issue that's maybe self-inflicted or something that's a very specific on them type of ordeal. Whereas, if it's a general complaint about the cleanliness of the community, that's very different. And so I think if you're taking the time to respond to reviews, it shows your prospects that you do care about, everything that's being said about the community or about the staff and things like that. And I think that's ultimately the most important piece of this, right? Is you're just trying to show that you do care. I've lived at some communities in my life where I felt like I was a burden to everyone in the office. Didn't matter what issue I had, what concern. I think a lot of people can probably empathize with that same feeling. I currently live at a community where I am not a burden. Actually, I go in there and it's fantastic. They're the best people that I could imagine working with. And I saw that in the online reviews, right? And I think other prospective renters can probably see that too. Hey, if I go and I have a problem, Michael in the office is going to be there to handle it. Sadie, the maintenance worker, is going to be there to handle it. These are just things that help you feel more comfortable as a renter. All right, let's take a 10,000-foot step back now. What are some of the emerging trends in online reviews that those in multifamily industry should be aware of? Ooh, Good question. Emerging trends. I think one of the biggest things is we're probably going to see the ILSs fall off a bit more than they are right now. I'm not saying that they're going to go away completely. There's always going to be a need for these internet listing services, right? In fact, our Internet of Interest study actually showed that some of these ILSs were the more important ones that people chose to start their search with. So I don't think we'll ever see it drop completely to zero, but you will see a probably stronger push towards the free review sites. And I think that this might be an opportunity to differentiate yourself, right? If all the communities in your area, your direct competitors, are focused on like Google and Facebook or Yelp or something like that, then there's an opportunity for you to say, hey, I have great ratings on those sites, but I also have great ratings on this other site that no one else in my area has, right? So there's just some of these types of ways that you can use this information to differentiate yourself. And another emerging thing that I'm going to say is a bigger push right now for customer service and communication related reviews. And I think that's driven right now due to the way that we are electing to centralize and specialize our offices, right? We're taking away certain members from the on-site team. We're taking away certain tasks that they normally would do, and giving that to a more centralized unit. And I think we will see that communication is one of these big things. So if you are focused on that, I would say you should be highly focused on the way that you're handling communication with your residents. And this wouldn't be a multifamily podcast in the year of 2024 if I didn't ask you about AI, Marcus. So tell me, what role do you see artificial intelligence, AI, playing in online reputation management in the multifamily industry in the coming years? Yeah, I think everything in this industry right now is so focused on AI, right? Robots and the future of technology. Are we building Skynet or are we not, and things like that. And I think it's great that AI has kind of come to the forefront of what every human can now look at. Before, it was hidden behind a wall of code and math, and you had to be kind of a super geek to understand it. But I think we're at the point where everyone can kind of look at it and interact with AI. And what I would say the role that I see here is probably through review response automation. I think every single one of us wants to go in and read every single review word for word and use that information. It's difficult. It's time consuming. And I think that there's probably a way that you can use AI to benefit you. Shameless plug. But another bigger case is just going through that review data is difficult, right? I'm saying you can't even take the time to go through and just read it and respond, right? That's time consuming. But how difficult, much more difficult would it be if you were trying to read through the reviews and then categorize these reviews into different operational buckets, and then separate that out and say, oh, these are all the complaints related to cleanliness, and these are all the complaints related to maintenance or something like that. That's difficult. And I see AI kind of benefiting us there too. And then finally, the last place that I personally would interact with AI is in the communication aspect, right? I just talked about how I would say that there's probably going to be an emergence of communication-related complaints. The use of AI in this case can help take some of that stress off the teams, right? If it can handle some easy question answering. At the end of it, though, this is a human interaction industry. So anytime we have those types of human to human interactions, that's always going to be the biggest benefit. But I do see AI being beneficial there. All right. I think that just about does it. One final question for you. Where can people go to learn more about your research and download the full report? Yeah, look, if you want to get the report or anything like that, you can just go to jturnerresearch.com. Don't forget the double R, J Turner Research, right? That's right there, the two R's. You got to make sure you get that. But if you go there, go to your resources, there's all kinds of great stuff. There's podcasts, there's webinars, there's all the research reports. Definitely go in there, check it out, download everything. And there you have it, folks. That is the interview with Marcus Armstrong about the mechanics of online review sites in Internet Listing Services, 12th edition by J Turner Research. I hope you found everything extremely fascinating. If you want to dive further into the report, I definitely recommend you go download that as Marcus generously noted to us earlier, it is at jturnerresearch.com. Don't forget the double R there. Please just go to the resources, and under research, you will find the report front and center for you. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, emotional outbursts, please send them to podcast@jturnerresearch.com. I love reading every single thing about it, especially whenever people make fun of the way I talk. So please keep sending those things. Love that for you. And if you're listening, thank you so much. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.